The interview room, the morning sky above the alien city, was gray, filled with the humming sound of transport ships gliding through the air. Inside one tall glass building, the reception hall of Orion Systems shone with polished floors and cold lights. It was a place where power and money lived. A place where aliens dressed in expensive suits came to find careers and climb higher in life. She stood at the front door for a long moment, her hands trembling, her chest tight. Her name was Lyra, a young alien woman from a poor district. She had no rich family, no fine clothes, no shining degree. Only a plain outfit stitched by her own hands, but still, she had come, clutching a folded paper invitation for an interview that could change her life. Lyra pushed the door open slowly, her thin figure stepping inside. Dozens of eyes turned toward her shiny-skinned clerks, tall reptilian assistants, and even winged candidates waiting with pride. Their eyes narrowed as they noticed her outfit. Old and simple, nothing like theirs. She felt heat rise in her cheeks, but she held her head high. She told herself, "I will not turn back now. I came this far. I will try." At the wide desk in front sat the alien receptionist, a tall woman with flawless scales and silver jewelry glittering across her arms. She looked down at Lyra with a smile that wasn't kind. Her eyes scanned Lyra's clothes, brown, patched. In places clearly not new, the receptionist's lips curled in amusement, and her voice rang across the room. "Oh my stars," she said loudly. "Is this really what you chose to wear for this company?" A few other aliens laughed quietly. Covering their mouths, Lyra's heart sank, but she pressed the folded paper onto the desk. I was called for an interview," she whispered, her voice shaking. The receptionist tilted her head, pretending to search the paper, though her eyes sparkled with cruelty. "Well, they must have made a mistake," she sneered. "Orion Systems doesn't hire beggars." Her words cut deeper than knives, and Lyra's chest burned with shame. She felt her legs weaken, her throat close up, her spirit whispering that maybe she should leave. But before she could turn, heavy footsteps echoed across the hall. The atmosphere shifted, every head lifted as the human entered. He was tall, dressed in dark clothing with sharp eyes that seemed to pierce through the crowd. This was Mr. Hayes, the human boss, known for running Orion Systems with discipline and brilliance. The receptionist straightened quickly, her mocking smile vanishing. She bowed slightly and said in a sweet voice, "Sir, forgive the noise." But Mr. Hayes didn't look at her. His gaze locked onto Lyra, the girl standing small and uncertain with her plain outfit. He studied her for only a moment. The hall grew quiet, everyone holding their breath, waiting to see what he would say. Lyra froze, unsure if he too would laugh. Her hands tightened on the folded paper, her heart pounding like a drum. She wanted to disappear, but something in the human's eyes stopped her. They weren't cruel, they weren't mocking, they were searching. Then, in a deep, firm voice, he spoke only 3 words: "Hire her." "Now?" The hall gasped, whispers spreading instantly. The receptionist blinked, stunned. "Sir, but look at her." "She's not," I said. The human cut her off, his tone like steel. "Hire her. Right now." Every alien fell silent. The laughter vanished. Lyra stood frozen, her mind spinning. Why would the human boss demand this? Why would he defend someone like her, a girl mocked for her clothes, a girl with nothing? The receptionist's mouth opened and closed, but she dared not argue further. Her claws tapped nervously against the desk as she processed the order. "Yes, sir," she finally whispered. Though her voice shook with frustration, the human gave Lyra one last glance, and for a second, it felt as if he saw something in her no one else could. Then he turned and walked away, leaving a heavy silence behind him. Lyra's heart pounded, her head dizzy. The crowd of candidates stared at her with confusion, some with jealousy, others with anger. She could hear them whisper, "Why her? What does he see in that girl? She doesn't belong here." But one thing was clear: she had been chosen, not ignored, not rejected. The human boss himself had spoken, and his voice carried a weight no one could challenge, as she stood there, still trembling. Still lost in disbelief, one thought echoed. In her mind, what did he see in me? And that unanswered question would change her life forever. The strange choice, the sound of the human boss's words still echoed in the wide reception hall. Hire her. Right now. Everyone had heard it, and no one dared question it, not even the proud alien receptionist. But once Mr. Hayes, the human boss, walked away, the room slowly filled again with whispers. Some whispered in disbelief, others in anger, and a few in mocking laughter. Lyra stood still, her mind spinning. Her hands were cold, her throat dry, and her legs felt too weak to move. Moments ago, she was ready to run out of the building, humiliated and broken. Now she was hired, just like that, without a test, without a question. It felt unreal. Like she had stepped into a dream she didn't deserve. The receptionist forced a tight smile, hiding her frustration. "Follow me," she said sharply, her tone no longer mocking but filled with quiet bitterness. She guided Lyra through the shining corridors of Orion Systems. The air was filled with the sound of machines, the glow of strange alien screens, and the hum of hundreds of workers busy at their stations. Everywhere Lyra passed, eyes followed her, some curious, some jealous, and some openly cruel. She heard whispers, "The human has lost his mind. Why her? She looks like a servant, not an employee. She won't last a week here." Each word pierced her heart, but she forced herself to keep walking. She remembered the human's eyes, calm, steady, and certain. It was his voice that had stopped her from collapsing in shame. It was his command that had placed her here. So she walked, even if every step felt heavy. The receptionist finally led her into a smaller room, clean, cold, with rows of chairs and strange glowing panels. "This is the interview chamber," the receptionist said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Normally, candidates face tests, hear logic exams, tech operations, strength trials vary. Hard things." Her eyes narrowed cruelly. "But you already passed, didn't you? You didn't even try, and still." She stopped, her words bitter. It was clear she hated Lyra already. The receptionist slammed a small device onto the desk. "Here, take this ID badge." The human boss gave the order. "So now, you're staff. Congratulations." The word congratulations didn't sound kind. It sounded like poison. Lyra hesitated as she picked up the badge. Staring at it with wide eyes, her name glowed across the alien screen. Leah Trainee Staff, Orion Systems. Her heart jumped in her chest. This was real, not a dream. She was now part of the company, but confusion pressed heavier than joy. Why had the human boss chosen her? He didn't know her. He hadn't even asked her name. What did he see in her plain clothes, in her trembling hands? And why did his voice carry such certainty, as if this was not just a decision, but a command of destiny? Later that day, she sat in the training hall, surrounded by new hires. Most were confident, dressed in fine clothes, showing off their gadgets and skills. They whispered when they saw her, "She looks weak." One muttered, "She won't survive the first week." Another laughed. The trainer, stern alien with 4 eyes, began explaining the rules of Orion Systems. "Your worth is measured by results. Fail your task, and you are gone. Succeed, and you climb higher." His voice was harsh, like stone grinding. Everyone nodded proudly, but Lyra felt her chest tighten. How could she, a poor girl with no training, survive here? When the session ended, she sat quietly in the corner, staring at her badge. She wanted to believe this was her chance to change her life, But doubt whispered inside her. What if they are right? What if I don't belong here? Her thoughts were broken by a shadow falling across her. She looked up. Mr. Hayes stood there, silent, his sharp eyes fixed on her. The trainer stiffened instantly, bowing. Sir, I didn't expect you leave. Us, the human said calmly, and the trainer obeyed without a word. Lyra froze, unsure if she should stand or bow. Her voice caught in her throat as she whispered, Sir, why did you hire me? Mr. Hayes studied her for a long moment, his face unreadable. Finally, he said, Because you remind me of something this company needs. She frowned, confused. But I have nothing. No skills, no fine clothes, nothing. The human's lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. You have more than they see. That's enough for now. Before she could ask more, he turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing like heavy drums, leaving her alone again. But his words stayed with her. You have more than they see. That night, as she left the building, the receptionist passed her, whispering cruelly, You won't last. The boss may have saved you today, but soon you'll fail, and when you do, I'll be here to watch you fall. Lyra didn't answer. Her chest was heavy, but her heart carried one strange spark of strength. The human boss's eyes, his voice, his choice. It gave her something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. She walked into the cold night, her ID badge glowing faintly. She was no longer just a poor girl from the streets. She was now part of something greater, but deep inside, one question still echoed. Why me? And that question was only the beginning of the mystery. The first test the next morning, Orion Systems buzzed with energy. Workers rushed through shining corridors. Screens glowed with alien text, and machines hummed with life. It was a place where only the best survived, where weakness was eaten alive. By competition, Lyra walked slowly through the hall, clutching her small bag. Her ID badge hung around her neck, glowing softly. Other workers glanced at her, whispering under their breath, she still came back. She'll break before noon. Some even laughed, covering their mouths as she passed. Her chest tightened, but she kept walking. The human boss's words still echoed inside her. You have more than they see. Those words were the only shield she had against the stares and whispers. When she entered the training chamber, she froze. Rows of new recruits stood ready, each with their devices shining, their uniforms crisp. At the front, the alien trainer with 4 eyes stood tall, his voice booming like thunder. Today begins your first test, he announced. You will prove if you belong here or if you should be thrown out. The room went silent. Every recruit standing straighter. The trainer pressed a button, and the walls of the chamber shifted. Panels opened, revealing alien machines, glowing screens, and boxes of strange tools. This is the system's coordination test, he growled. You will organize and control these machines, direct their energy, and balance their outputs. Make a mistake, and the system crash more than twice, and you fail. Fail and you will be dismissed from Orion Systems forever. Lyra's stomach twisted with fear. She had never touched alien machines like these before. Back home, she barely knew how to repair a cooking unit, and now she had to manage a system used by one of the galaxy's strongest companies. The other recruits smirked, confident. Many had trained for years in expensive schools. One leaned toward another and whispered loudly enough for her to hear. She won't last even one round. The trainer called, Begin. The machines came alive. Instantly lights flashed. Panels glowed, and warning alarms blared. Recruits rushed forward, their fingers flying across alien keys, their voices calling commands. Lyra hesitated, her hands shaking, her mind blank. She stared at the glowing controls, dozens of signals flashing in alien code she barely understood. The trainer's cold eyes found her. Move, girl, he barked. If you stand still, you are already failing. Her breath came fast, her chest heavy. She wanted to run, but she forced herself to step forward. Her fingers touched the glowing keys, clumsy, unsure. The system immediately screamed with air lights, red alarms bursting. Across her screen, snickers echoed from the recruits around her. She's already crashing. One said, laughing, "She's hopeless." Another added. The trainer glared at her, ready to mark her name as a failure. But then something strange happened in the middle of the flashing lights. She saw patterns. The alien code wasn't just random, it moved like waves. Her eyes followed the rhythm, the ups and downs, the quiet moments between alarms. And suddenly, she understood. She pressed a sequence, not by logic, but by instinct. The alarms softened, the lights steadied. Another warning flash. She adjusted quickly, her hands moving faster now. The system began to calm. Her breath slowed, her focus sharpened. It was as if the machines were singing, and she could hear their music. The recruits around her froze, their smirks fading. One whispered, "How is she?" Another muttered, "She was supposed to fail." But she didn't fail. For the first time, her screen glowed green, system balanced. The trainer's four eyes widened slightly. It was rare for new recruits to balance the system so quickly. Yet here was the poor girl in the plain outfit, steadying the machine like she had done it before. She stepped back, her chest heaving, her heart racing. The green light stayed solid. Proof of her success. The trainer's voice cut the silence. Low but sharp. "Not bad," he muttered, though his expression was unreadable. Then louder, "The first test is complete. Continue to the next stage." Lyra exhaled, relief washing over her. She had done it against all odds. She had passed, but as she looked up, she'd noticed something. High above, in the corner of the chamber, behind the glass of the observation deck, the human boss stood silently, watching her, his arms crossed, his eyes fixed only on her. He had been there the whole time, and for a moment, she felt like he had been guiding her not with words, but with presence. The other recruits noticed too. Whispers spread quickly. "She's his favorite. No wonder she passed. It's unfair." But Lyra knew the truth. He hadn't helped her, not directly. It was her own instinct, her own strange ability to see patterns where others saw chaos. Still, why did he watch her so closely? Why did he choose her, protect her, and now silently observe her as if she was the key to something greater? When the test ended, she left the chamber, her steps unsteady, but her heart burning with new fire. She had faced the impossible and survived. But her success did not win her friends only more suspicion, more jealousy, and in the shadows of Orion Systems. Her true trial was only beginning. Rumors and jealousy by the next morning. Orion Systems was alive with whispers, not about new projects, not about contracts with alien governments, but about her. The poor girl in a plain outfit who somehow passed the system's coordination test in the lunch hall. Voices echoed as trays clattered and workers gathered in groups. "She cheated." "I know it," one alien muttered, his skin shimmering with irritation. Another scoffed. No one with her background could balance that machine so fast. Someone helped her. A third leaned in, lowering his voice. "It's the human boss. Didn't you see him watching her? He's protecting her. Maybe she's his special choice." Lyra sat alone at the corner table, her tray untouched. She could hear every word, though they tried to whisper. Their eyes burned holes into her back, filled with suspicion. She wanted to disappear, but she forced herself to stay. Running away would prove them right that she didn't belong here. The alien receptionist passed by, her silver jewelry glittering under the lights. Her smile was sharp, not friendly. Well, the little street rat thinks she's important now," she said loudly enough for many to hear. Lyra looked down, saying nothing. The receptionist leaned closer, her voice dripping with poison. You think the boss really hired you for your talent? No. He hired you for some other reason. And when he's done, you'll be thrown out like garbage. The words stung, but Lyra stayed silent. She didn't want to give the woman the pleasure of seeing her break that evening as she returned to her training desk. She found a surprise. Her console was already on, glowing with error messages, lines of alien code scrambled across the screen. Someone had tampered with her system. Setting her up for failure, her chest tightened. If she reported it, they would laugh and say she was making excuses. If she failed, it would confirm all the rumors. She sat down, her hands trembling, and began to work. Hours passed as she tried to untangle the chaos. Every time she calmed one section, another flashed red. Her head pounded, her eyes burned, but she didn't stop. Finally, after endless attempts, the system glowed green again. She exhaled, relief flooding her. She had fixed it alone, without anyone's help. But when she looked up, she noticed him again, behind the glass of the upper floor. The human boss stood silently, his sharp eyes locked on her. He didn't smile, he didn't nod, but something about his presence steadied her heart. It was as if he had been watching to see if she could fight on her own. The next day, rumors grew sharper. Some recruits avoided her, others mocked her openly. She's the boss's toy. One laughed, she doesn't deserve her badge. Another sneered. Each word dug into her chest, but she kept working. Every test, every assignment. She completed, not perfectly, not easily, but with determination. One afternoon, a group of recruits cornered her in the hallway. You think you're better than us because the human likes you. The tallest one hissed. Lyra shook her head quickly. No, I don't. But before she could finish, he shoved her lightly against the wall. You don't belong here. Go back to the streets where you came from. Her throat closed. Her hands shook, but before the situation grew worse, a calm voice echoed from behind them. She belongs here more than you think. The recruits froze, their faces paling. Mr. Hayes, the human boss, stood there, his presence heavy. His eyes scanned the group, sharp as blades. Not one dared to speak. Without raising his voice, he said, "Return to your work." They obeyed. Instantly scattering down the hall, Lyra stood frozen, her heart hammering. She expected him to scold her, or worse, to question her weakness, but instead, he simply said, "You did well. You didn't break." Her lips parted, but no words came out. Before she could thank him, he turned and walked away, his coat brushing the air like a shadow. Later that night, Lyra sat alone in her small dorm room provided by the company. Her badge lay on the desk, glowing softly in the dark. Her mind replayed the words again and again. You didn't break. She realized that was what he wanted from her, not perfection, not brilliance, but resilience. He was testing her spirit. Not just her skills, but why? Why her? She thought of his sharp gaze, the way he appeared at the right moments. He wasn't saving her from the pain, he was letting her face it. But never letting her drown. It was as if he was shaping her, preparing her for something beyond. This company, the next morning, the receptionist greeted her with a fake smile. "I hope you're enjoying all the attention, little girl," she said sweetly. Lyra ignored her and walked past, her heart steadier now. The receptionist's smile faded into a scowl. She muttered under her breath, "Enjoy it while it lasts. You won't be smiling soon." Lyra didn't hear the words, but she felt the tension. Jealousy was no longer just whispers. It was turning into something darker. And though she didn't know it yet, her biggest test was coming, one that would not just decide her job, but her place in the human boss's secret plans. The secret meeting, the building of Orion Systems, never truly slept. Even at midnight, the long glass halls glowed with pale light. Machines hummed softly. Guards patrolled. and screens blinked with endless streams of alien data. Lyra should have been asleep in her small dorm, but she couldn't rest. Her mind was too full. The whispers, the jealousy, the tests, all of it spun inside her head. And above all, one question burned brighter than the rest. Why did the human boss choose me? She found herself walking through the quiet corridors. Her footsteps soft. The silence felt heavy. Like the walls themselves were listening. Turning a corner, she froze, ahead, through an open door. She saw a faint light. It came from one of the archive rooms, a place where records and history files were kept. Curiosity pulled her forward. Peeking inside, she gasped. Mr. Hayes, the human boss, was there, alone, sitting at a wide desk. Stacks of old records and glowing data sheets surrounded him. He wasn't resting, he wasn't relaxed, he was searching. Digging into something with sharp focus. She shouldn't have been there. But she couldn't move away. Something about the sight felt too important to ignore. Slowly, she stepped closer, her voice trembling. "Sir?" The human's head lifted instantly, his eyes sharp, for a moment. She thought he would be angry, but his gaze softened slightly when he saw it was her. "Lyra," he said, his voice calm but firm. "You should be resting. Tomorrow will not. Be easy." She swallowed hard, her hands twisting nervously. I couldn't sleep," she whispered. Then, after a pause, she dared to ask the question that haunted her. "Why? Why did you hire me? You don't even know me. Everyone says I don't belong here." Maybe they're right. The human leaned back in his chair, studying her with eyes that seemed to see through everything. Finally, he said, "You remind me of someone." Lyra blinked, surprised. "Someone from Earth?" He nodded slowly, his gaze drifting toward one of the glowing screens. "Yes. Long ago, on Earth, there was a woman who stood against the impossible. She had nothing, no power, no wealth, no protection, but she refused to break. And in the end, she changed everything." Lyra's chest tightened. The story strange yet familiar. Was she family? She asked softly. The human's eyes flickered with something she couldn't repaint. Maybe, or memory. She was more than family. She was a sign of what humans value most: resilience. "And when I saw you, standing in that hall, mocked by everyone, but refusing to leave, I saw her." His words sank deep into her heart for the first time. She understood he hadn't chosen her for her clothes, her skills, or her past. He had chosen her because she didn't break, because she stood, even when the world told her to fall. Still, questions burned inside her. But why watch me so closely? Why test me like this? The human leaned forward, his voice lowering, because Orion Systems is more than just a company. "Lyra, it is part of something great, something dangerous. And only those who can endure truth and pain can stand at its center." Lyra shivered, her heart pounding. She wanted to ask more, but he shook his head. "Not yet. You are not ready to know everything, but soon you will be." He rose to his feet, tall and commanding in the glow of the screens. Then he stepped closer, his eyes locking onto hers. "For now, remember this? They can mock you. They can test you. They can even try to break you. But the reason I chose you is because you carry something they don't. And one day, the whole galaxy will see it." Her breath caught, her chest heavy with both fear and strange hope. She wanted to ask what she carried. But his voice cut through her thoughts. "Go back now. Rest. Tomorrow, the trials will grow harder." Lyra hesitated, then nodded. As she turned to leave, she cast one last glance at him. He stood there among the records, the glow of ancient data painting shadows across his face. It struck her then, he wasn't just a boss. He was a man carrying secrets heavy enough to crush anyone else, and somehow she had been pulled into those secrets. Not by chance, but by his deliberate choice. Later, in her small dorm, Lyra lay awake, staring at the ceiling. His words replayed again and again. You carry something they don't. What did he mean? She was just a girl from the poor districts. Nothing more, nothing special. Or was she? The thought filled her with both dread and wonder. She felt like a door had opened, showing a path she didn't understand, a path she could not turn away. From now, outside, the city lights glowed, the alien stars shining beyond. And in that quiet darkness, she whispered to herself, I won't break. Whatever comes, I won't break. She didn't know it yet, but those words would soon be tested in ways she could never imagine. And the world that mocked her would one day kneel at the truth of who she was becoming. The breaking point morning came with a storm, not outside the building but inside it. The halls of Orion Systems felt heavier than usual. Filled with sharp whispers and darting eyes, everyone seemed to know something was about to happen. Lyra walked in quietly. Her steps small but steady. She clutched her badge, reminding herself of the human boss's words. You carry something they don't. Still, her chest felt tight. The jealousy around her was no longer hidden. It was boiling, ready to spill over. The receptionist was waiting, her silver jewelry flashing under the lights. She wore a smile that was too wide, too false. Good. Morning, little star, she said sweetly, her tone dripping with venom. Your human protector isn't here today. Let's see how you survive now. Lyra said nothing, only bowed her head and moved past. But the words stuck in her heart. Was the boss really gone? If so, who would stop them from tearing her apart? The day's assignment was cruel. All the new recruits were brought into a large chamber where a mountain of alien data screens blinked with endless warnings. The trainer with 4 eyes barked. Today's challenge is survival under pressure. The system will throw chaos at UARs, alarms, fake commands, real commands. You must hold the line. If your console collapses, you are dismissed. The recruits looked eager, confident, but when the systems activated, chaos exploded. Lights flashed, alarms screamed, codes scrambled in dizzying waves. It was worse than anything before. Lyra's hands shook as she tried to keep up. Her eyes followed the patterns like before, but this time the speed was faster. Harsher, her screen kept flashing red. She fought hard, pressing commands, redirecting energy, trying to balance it, but the machine kept resisting, almost as if it wanted her to fail. Behind her, whispers grew. Look at her. She's drowning. Without him, she's nothing. Her throat tightened. Her chest burned. She pressed faster, her fingers moving desperately. But her system collapsed. A giant red light flashed. System failure. The room filled with laughter, cruel and sharp. The receptionist's voice rang above them all. See, I told you all. She's nothing without her human shield. Lyris. Vision blurred with tears, her heart twisting with shame. She wanted to run, to throw the badge away, to vanish. Her chest whispered, they were right all along. I don't belong here. But then, another voice spoke not from outside, but from memory. The human boss's calm words, you didn't break. She closed her eyes, the laughter around her fading for a heartbeat. No, she whispered, trembling. I won't break. She opened her eyes and forced her shaking hands back to the console, ignoring the laughter, ignoring the receptionist's smirk. She restarted the system once again. Chaos roared across the screen. Her heart pounded. Her body screamed to stop, but she refused to let go. The trainer frowned, confused, normally. After a failure, recruits gave up. But this girl was starting again, fighting even harder. Her eyes caught the rhythm again. Amid the chaos, she saw the wave, the pattern hidden in the storm. She pressed fast. Faster than before, her instincts. Sharper, the alarms faded, the light steadied. Her screen shifted from red to yellow. Then to green, the hall fell silent. The impossible had happened. She recovered after failure. She rebuilt her system from collapse to balance. The trainer's 4 eyes widened. That should not have been possible, he muttered. But it was real. Her console glowed steady green. The laughter died. The whispers hushed. Everyone stared at her with shock. The receptionist's smirk vanished, her jaw tight with rage before anyone could speak. The door at the far end opened, heavy. Footsteps echoed. Mr. Hayes, the human boss, walked in. He had returned, and his eyes swept the room, sharp as ever. They landed on Lyra's console, glowing steady green, and then on her trembling figure, standing tall despite everything. "What happened here?" he asked, his voice calm but heavy. No one dared to answer. Finally, the trainer cleared his throat. "She failed at first, sir. But then she did what no one has ever done. She rebuilt her system after collapse." The human's gaze sharpened, his lips tightening. Then he spoke, his words echoing through the hall. "Do you see now? Why chose her?" The silence was heavy. Every recruit staring. The receptionist's face burned red with humiliation. Mr. Hayes stepped closer, his voice strong. "Clothes do not matter. Wealth does not matter. Status does not matter. What matters is this: when she fell, she stood again. When she failed, she refused to stay broken. And that is something none of you can fake." Lyra's heart pounded, her chest warm with a strange fire. She had been crushed, mocked, pushed to the edge. But she had stood again, and now the entire room had seen it. The human boss turned to the others, his eyes like blades. "If any of you think she does not belong here, remember this moment, 'cause I say, she belongs more than any of you." The room stayed silent, no one daring to laugh now. The receptionist's eyes burned with hatred, but she said nothing. Mr. Hayes looked at Lyra one last time. "You didn't break. That's why you are here," he said softly, just for her to hear. Then he turned and walked out, leaving the hall frozen in silence. That night, in her small room, Lyra sat with her badge in her hands. Tears filled her eyes, but this time they were not of shame, they were of strength. For the first time, she believed she was not worthless. She had faced the breaking point, and she had not broken, but deep inside, she also knew something larger was moving. The human boss was not just protecting her, he was preparing her for what she still didn't know. But the storm was only beginning. The revelation, the company. Halls were quieter the next day, but it wasn't peace, was tension. Everyone had seen what happened. Everyone had watched Lyra fall, then rise again, stronger than before, and though none dared to mock her openly now, whispers still followed her wherever she walked. She could feel their eyes, heavy and sharp. Some filled with respect, some with fear, and others with burning jealousy. But what stayed with her most was not their stares. It was the human boss's voice, still echoing in her chest. "You didn't break. That's why you are here." That evening, as the last shift ended and most workers left, a message appeared on her console, glowing softly. "Report to the top floor. Midnight. Alone." Her heart skipped a beat. She knew whose message it was. Her hands trembled as she touched the badge around her neck. The human boss was calling her, and she didn't know if it was to reward her or test her again. When midnight came, Lyra climbed the long, empty stairs to the top floor. The doors opened into a vast office, the walls lined with glass, showing the alien city glowing in the distance. And there he was, Mr. Hayes, standing tall by the window, his back turned to her. For a long moment he didn't speak. Only the hum of the city outside filled the silence. Finally, his voice came, deep and steady. "You want answers." Lyra swallowed hard, nodding, "Yes. I need to know. Why me? Why all this? The human turned, his eyes sharp but not unkind. You've proven yourself, Lyra. You faced humiliation, sabotage, failure, and you stood again. That is why you are ready to hear the truth. Her chest tightened, her breath quick. She whispered, "The truth about what?" He walked closer, placing a small device on the desk. With a touch, it lit up, projecting ancient records into the images of humans and aliens together. Standing in unity long ago, Lyra's eyes widened. "What is this?" "This," he said, his gaze locking on hers, "is history they want you to forget. Centuries ago, humans and your people made an alliance sealed by something far greater than contracts or trade. It was sealed by blood, by genetics." Her heart raced, her mind spinning. Genetics. She repeated, confused. "Yes," he said, his voice low and certain. "There are few alive who carry the old markers of that bond, and you carry it." She froze, her chest heavy. "That's impossible," she whispered. "I'm nobody. Just a poor girl," but he shook his head firmly. "No. That's why I chose you the moment I saw you. I saw it in your eyes, in your strength, to stand while others laughed. You are more than what they say. You are the living bridge between our species. And without you, the alliance will collapse forever." Her knees weakened, and she grabbed the desk for support. The truth was too big, too heavy. She had thought she was worthless, mocked for her clothes, her background, her lack of power. But now she was told she was the key to something greater than herself. Before she could speak, the doors burst open. The receptionist stormed in, her eyes blazing. "So it's true," she hissed. "You've been protecting her, hiding her. All this time, I knew there was something. And now I see she's your precious chosen one." Her voice was filled with rage, her claws curling tight. "She doesn't deserve it. She's nothing but a weak girl from the streets." Body froze, fear prickling her skin. But Mr. Hayes stepped forward, his voice cutting through the room like steel. "You will not touch her." The receptionist laughed bitterly. "You think you can protect her forever? The others will find out. They will destroy her. They will destroy you." Mr. Hayes's eyes darkened. "Let them come. By tradition, by law, by truth, she cannot be destroyed. She is the alliance itself." The receptionist sneered, but she dared not move closer. Her rage burned, but the human's presence was stronger, heavier. Finally, with a hiss, she turned and stormed out, her threat still hanging in the air. Lyra stood trembling, her heart racing. She whispered, "Why? Why tell me now? I don't know how to carry something like this." The human's gaze softened for the first time. "Because you already are carrying it. Every time they mocked you, you stood. Every time they tried to break you, you rose. That is what it means to be the bridge. Not perfection, not wealth, not power, but strength that refuses to die." Tears filled her eyes, hot and blinding. For the first time, she didn't feel worthless. For the first time, she believed she had purpose. A destiny, not just a job. Mr. Hayes placed a hand gently on her shoulder, his voice steady. "Your true work begins now, not as a simple employee, but as humanity's partner. Together, we will remind this galaxy of the promise it forgot." The stars outside glittered brighter, the city lights shining below. Lyra stood taller, her tears drying, her heart stronger. She was no longer just the poor girl in a plain outfit. She was something greater, something chosen. And as she whispered to herself, the words felt like fire in her chest. "I won't break. Not ever again." The human nodded, his eyes proud. "That is why I chose you." And in that moment, the story of a mocked girl transformed into the story of a bridge between worlds. The galaxy would remember her name, not as a mistake, not as a joke, but as the beginning of a new age.